for watching the Citizens Report. My name is William Donahue. For today's show, I have a bunch of different sections which I organized into kind of basically related topics. There's no good title for any of them, so all these stories, regardless, are part of a woven fabric that makes up one cloth. So it's all one thing at the end of the day, and that's how we kind of view things as a person. What I do is I come up with my most logical rationalization of what's going on based on what I've seen, what I've heard, what I've taste, touch, feel, all your senses, but also based on like an intuition that you just kind of look at something and you say, this doesn't make any sense. And then you have backgrounds and things of that nature. So a little context to how I came up with my worldview. Obviously, I am a Christian. I was born in the United States. I believe in humanity, and I think that there's enough resources for everyone to be prosperous and healthy and have freedom, and that I believe in the good in people, but I also understand that there's bad in people, and I don't project my goodness onto people and assume that they wouldn't do something just because it's wrong. Also, I believe in freedom for all people, and I just want to see human existence continue on and to not fall into a false sense of comfort where you think that everything in the world that's going on is normal, and then in comes a flood. So that's our metaphor today. I have my painting here, which is from the perspective of someone who wasn't on Noah's Ark. So you could see the flood coming in, everyone's running out of the city, and unfortunately, those people didn't make it. So basically, I don't know what the future is going to hold specifically, but I think that we've been accurate up until this point on this show, and I think that we almost kind of are like jumping onto a running treadmill. So if you know how fast the treadmill's moving, you can jump on it and match the speed and you won't fall. But if you jump on and run too slow, you'll get flung off the back, and if you run too fast, you'll run up and you could miss a step or step on the front of the thing or whatever. So the idea is to get down to the exact same speed. Every show we could just jump in and everybody knows how fast or knows what's going on is the metaphor for the treadmill, knows how fast that treadmill is actually running so that we could all jump on it together. So that's kind of my background and what my purpose is for doing this show. Now, this first article is something that I talked about a week ago that's coming to fruition. So watch this clip.
A scene reminiscent out of the Cold War, and the message, well, it couldn't be any clearer.
Yeah, 3 Russian warships and a nuclear-powered submarine arrived in Cuba a few hours ago. They're taking part in planned military exercises in the Caribbean, but the real goal is essentially a projection of strength by Russia on the world stage. It's being very closely watched by the US, and it comes amid rising tensions between Washington and Moscow over, of course, the war in Ukraine.
So we've been saying on this show that Russia is going to respond to the NATO expansion and NATO escalations that have taken place, and now we're seeing, as you saw in that clip, and as this article says, U.S. Navy shadowing Russian flotilla off the coast of Florida from satellite data. So the Navy is shadowing a flotilla. Other nuclear capable ships have landed in Cuba, similar to, as that reporter said, similar to the Cuban Missile Crisis, but the difference is this time we don't have John F. Kennedy to pick up the hotline and call the Russian leadership directly. We have Joe Biden, who has been escalating this situation more and more, and will probably respond to this with an escalation. So 12 EU countries lobbying for starting accession talks with Ukraine and Moldova, another alliance expanding in the face of Russia to include Ukraine, who's currently at war with Russia. So wouldn't that drag everybody else in by adopting them as a member during a current war? Ukrainian spies involved in Moscow terror attack, says FSB chief. Kiev and the West have recruited agents to carry out attacks inside Russia, Alexander Bortnikov has claimed. He's the FSB chief. So Russia's concerned about potential Ukrainian and either European or United States actors that carried out the attack at the Crocus Music Hall. NATO members okay using jets to strike Russia. Well, this is what led to that. NATO members okay using its jets to strike Russia. They're talking about Ukraine using NATO members' jets and equipment and bombs to strike inside of the country of Russia. Ukraine uses U.S. weapons to strike inside Russia, according to a senator and a Western official. So they have used the weapons in Russia, and it's been reported on by the AP. And then in response to that, the second Minuteman III test in a week's time showcases readiness of U.S. ICBM fleet. So the U.S. is testing nuclear bombs. Russia says it will conduct tactical nuclear weapons drill in response to threats from the West. So all this is leading up to Russia bringing ships off the coast of Florida, 66 miles away from the continental United States. That's the false sense of reality that I'm talking about when you tune into the news at 10 o'clock at night and they say, thank you for watching the 10 o'clock news. For our top story today, SPCA is doing a Pet the Dogs Day for kids at a local kindergarten, and they don't tell you that, or don't emphasize the fact that Russian warships are 66 miles off the coast of Florida. That is creating that false sense of reality, false sense of security that you are supposed to follow, but if you don't follow it, then you get banned and kicked off of things and things like that. So that is, the people who are getting censored are voices other than that narrative, and that is a serious attack on not only your ability to create your own opinion, but on humanity itself for not giving us the steering wheel to drive our own ship to safety, if we so choose. Russian warships headed to the Caribbean for drills as tensions rise. So that has happened. AfD candidate attacked with a knife in Mannheim. So German official, part of the AfD party, who is more of a right-wing person, following the trend that's been going on with assassinations and attacks on Mexican politicians, the Fico, Robert Fico, the attack on the president of Iran. This attack we see a trend with leaders who are against this war and against certain government narratives. We see a trend of them being assassinated or attempted assassinations taking place. This article is Putin saying that he doesn't want this war to happen. Putin rages as reporter asks about attacking NATO. You are as dumb as this table. So Putin said, there's this fanciful stuff that Russia wants to attack NATO. You are out of your mind. You are as dumb as this table. Who made that up? It's nonsense. Do you understand? It's a bunch of gibberish. So what he's saying is that he doesn't want this war, and that, as he said in the Tucker Carlson interview, NATO has expanded towards Russia, and Russia is simply looking to defend itself and to maybe conquer territory to function as a buffer zone between Europe and Russia. And NATO's said that that's a conspiracy theory, and Putin has said it out of his own mouth. Now, he has offered multiple peace talk agreement, negotiations, and we're yet to see Ukraine show up to any of them, and it's believed that they're not going to them at the direction of people within the UK government. So, Israel used U.S. munitions in deadly strike on UN school, expert says. So now we're into the Israel section, but this is part of the same conflict. The same two groups are on both sides of the same conflict. Israeli fighter jet appears to have used a U.S.-made munition in a strike that killed dozens of people inside a UN school in central Gaza Strip on Thursday. So, another attack on a school that killed innocent civilians. Israeli senators storm Al-Aqsa Mosque. This is a massive Muslim religious site, and the Israeli settlers have said that they want to take it back. It used to be a site of a synagogue, and we're seeing this if this happened in America with, let's say, Christians attacking a Jewish synagogue or any other Christians attacking any other religious group's temple and taking it over. This is by definition religious extremism. So that being allowed to happen and going completely under the radar is indicative of double standards that our system constantly lives by. We're going into our religious topic now off of that. Student temporarily denied diploma after urging classmates to follow Christ at graduation ceremony. So he was warned not to go off script. He wrote his speech a certain way and they altered it, and then he just read it the way that he wrote it because he wanted to say what he wanted to say. And I don't think that he should, for one word, that word being Jesus Christ, 2 words, I guess, for that name, for him to lose 4 years of going to college for mentioning that name, shows you how our system is operating. And that's why I say it's all woven together. So the same system that wants to not give this guy a diploma wants to fight Russia in a war that's going to be nuclear. Middle schooler censored by school over patriotic speech, now banned from attending next year, and his little sister. They made a campaign video for a position at St. Bonaventure School. So he was running for the Commissioner of Patriotism in School Spirit. and he was instructed by school leaders that he had to take all parts about patriotism out of his speech when running for a candidate of a patriot, a commissioner of patriotism. So he made a video and read the speech the way he wanted to say it, and he is now, and his little sister, who was a tiny little thing holding a sign up for her big brother, her and him are kicked out of school next year, that school, St. Bonaventure's, for loving this country. Same system. Connecticut City rejects flying thin blue line flag to honor fallen trooper. So they said, no, we're not going to hang the American flag with the one blue stripe on it, but we're going to hang a pride flag instead. They flew a pride flag in place of the American flag at, I want to say, at half-mast when honoring this fallen soldier, and they declined him from being honored with a flag that represented police lives. Now this here, we're going to wave the little American flag. This is a win for the United States. The FEC is bringing charges of election interference against Alvin Bragg and Joe Biden for their weaponization of the American judicial system against a running political candidate. The claim is that they organized a legal attack against Donald Trump as an attack on him and his campaign. So, my next section, sexual assault on a minor near Kane, 18 months of probation. This person sexually assaulted a minor and only received 18 months of probation. Now, Donald Trump received 34 felonies, looking at over 100 years in prison, potentially, for falsifying this document, which can be argued, and it'll go into appeals and all that stuff or whatever. However that outcome happens, he was still charged with that and is looking to fight that. This person sexually assaulted a minor and is going to do 18 months of probation. So that is a massive double standard in our system. Now, kind of going into a little section about illegal immigrants, not just U.S. illegal immigrants, but illegal immigrants in Europe. Breaking, illegal alien shoots 2 New York City police officers. This is from June 3rd, 2024. This is not the one from a couple months ago that had everyone up in arms. It's happened again.
And all morning we've been watching police work here along 23rd Avenue, part of a very large crime scene going up and down this stretch here, focused on finding clues. And this hour, new details to share from their investigation and about that suspect. First, a look at the gun. Police say 19-year-old suspect Bernardo Raul Castro Mata used to open fire on 2 NYPD officers overnight. Authorities saying he carried that firearm illegally and that it's now in evidence.
So this is going on in Poland. Rwandan migrant demolishes car in Warsaw in viral video. A recording involving a migrant in Warsaw has gone viral online, showing the man demolishing a parked car on a housing estate. So this has been a trend that we've seen. These illegals were supposed to be painted as people who were coming to work, escaping economic poverty or whatever, escaping religious attacks. Now we see random acts of violence, and random acts of violence happen all the time, but there's statistics that Latin American countries have emptied out their prisons and insane asylums, and you could only guess that those people probably hopped on one of the convoys up to America and are currently in this country. So we have no idea who's in our country or who crossed the border into Europe or America. And there's just more and more examples of it all the time. Human smuggling from BC to US is soaring, border stats show. So this is a major thing. A child who's so innocent to have to be smuggled and potentially sex trafficked or used for labor or whatever is disgusting, and I don't understand why we're not getting daily updates about this, because this is like a main topic. This should be the top story all the time. Human smuggling, slavery, anything like that should be a main topic, not something for the back burner, and especially not something that's covered up, because we've seen the writers of The Sound of Freedom attempted to be discredited, and they did good work, and that guy saved children, and that's a story that needed to be told and is more relevant as time goes on. Top German politician demands maximum penalty for young people expressing their discontent with unrestricted migration. So, German politicians are calling for a group of young people protesting against unrestricted migration to be imprisoned, possibly even given the maximum sentence for a variety of alleged crimes. Somebody being locked up for expressing their view in a country that they pay taxes to, that's supposed to be a democracy, is absolutely insane. The asylum loophole. President Biden's latest executive actions on immigration are an attempt to shrink a loophole that has allowed many people to enter the country without legal permission. It is an attempt to shrink the loophole, not to close it up all the way. It should be like it used to be, based on a civil service test, passing background checks, and checking to see if you are tied to a foreign government or what is going on with you. You shouldn't be allowed to just walk over and be here undetected for any amount of time. France. Sudanese refugee won't be deported despite burning down 16 apartments, multiple cars, part of a church, and seriously injuring a student. In a case that involves at least 27 victims, a 35-year-old Sudanese man has been convicted for multiple arson attacks across France, the French city of Pau, which were set over a period of at least 2 months. So this person won't be deported despite all this criminal activity, which is completely ridiculous. So shifting into this, Hunter Biden convicted on all counts in federal gun trial. This to me is not that important. It's serving as more of a distraction and more of a divisive thing, like, oh, Trump got 34 felonies, that's rookie stuff. You see all these people online who act like they know something but don't understand the bigger picture. So none of that stuff matters. I even think that Trump in a way has been really at fault for the things that have been coming out of his mouth. I think that at such a crucial turning point, he's really not rising up to be the leader that the right wing wants him to be, the right wing. And he's not proven the left right, but he's said things about Israel recently, and he's just disappointing me but I don't know who you would vote for. Basically, I wanted to say this, that when the media says that the Great Replacement is a conspiracy theory, that's because that's not what it's called. So I've showed on this show that there's a document from the UN called Replacement Migration, and it is a document that is their policy to move people from third world countries into the first world. So we're seeing that. Don't not believe your eyes. That is the truth. That is not a conspiracy theory. And, things like that that are more important than this Hunter Biden thing are. So, I don't know. That's why I really didn't put it towards the front of the episode. Steve Bannon ordered to prison while he challenges his conviction for defying January 6th committee. So they subpoenaed him. Supposedly he had something to do with the executive branch. So to subpoena him, he claimed would violate executive privileges, and he ignored the subpoena. So he's being sent to prison. And it's, I don't know, to Trump's credit, I mean, he is facing the persecution, probably, if not the second place, probably first place, for being the most persecuted person in America. Supreme Court rules in favor of NRA in key First Amendment case. In a unanimous decision written by Justice Sonia Stoudemire, the High Court holds that the NRA plausibly alleged that Volo violated the First Amendment by coercing DFS-regulated entities to terminate their business relationships with the NRA in order to punish or suppress the NRA's advocacy. That's a big win for the United States. Thank you for all the people like Mike Adams and the NRA who have stood up for the First Amendment. Those things will be written in our history books. Judge rejects call to immediately shut down Alex Jones' InfoWars in bankruptcy dispute. After a weekend in which conspiracy theorist Alex Jones warned that the media company faced immediate shutdown by federal government because of his bankruptcy case, a judge Monday allowed Jones to keep operating for the next 2 weeks while it decided whether his assets should be liquidated. So this is about a week-old article. Basically, it says here, Alex Jones warned that his media company faced imminent shutdown. So then the following Monday, he was literally in court facing a judge to see whether his thing would be shut down. So that's a serious thing. He is a reporter with an opinion that, obviously through lawfare has been silenced over and over again. And today, the Sandy Hook families want to take his X page down. That's a headline from Reuters. That's not in the stack here, but it's a big deal. So you see Steve Bannon, Tucker Carlson, Joe Rogan got tested, Russell Brandt's getting attacked. Who else? Alex Jones, Mike Adams is filing that lawsuit. But you see all these reporters who kind of have a similar worldview. And then there's people outside of that who have oddball worldviews that don't focus on the real attack. The real attack is globalism, is the global government entities running all these things like strings on a puppet and making things unlivable for people when the world has so many resources that we all could share and be prosperous. So that is a major factor when you see reporters and journalists being attacked by their own government. Experts are working hard to make insects part of your diet. The yuck factor may be the biggest hurdle. So they're talking about putting bugs in food as flour, as different things, substituting things to slowly introduce crickets into your diet, or bugs in general. Now, the thing about bugs is that they have an exoskeleton that is hardened by a chemical called chitin. So chitin is a toxin that is in the exoskeleton of insects that you would be eating, and it's poisonous to the human body. So they say the yuck factor may be the biggest hurdle. I think that there's a little bit more to worry about than the yuck factor. Farmers ordered to kill 2.4 million chickens after bird flu outbreak hits Iowa egg farm. More than 4 million chickens in Iowa will have to be killed after a case of highly pathogenic bird flu was detected at a large egg farm, the state announced Tuesday. So this was detected probably with a PCR test, which if you ramp up the cycles on a PCR test, you can find anything, trace elements of anything that you want to plug in there. It will find something that resembles what you're looking for. So it's not a reliable test. Now, killing 4 million chickens and then promoting bugs to be eaten. A lot of world leaders have said that bugs will replace farm animals because they're more climate efficient. And we're seeing that literally take place. These two articles. Chickens getting killed over a possible bird. It doesn't say that any of the chickens were actually sick. It only says that it was detected. So whatever that means. And then they're saying that they want to make bugs a part of your diet. Now how about this? This is the Eureka Bio raises $26.5 million to reduce greenhouse gas emissions with methane vaccine. They want to vaccinate cows. They want to vaccinate cows to make them stop farting methane, which to me is ridiculous. Now, if you think about Wild Bill, Buffalo Bill, he would ride on a train in the Great Plains, and there would be so many buffaloes, as far as the eye could see, that he would just shoot a bunch of them off the train, which is a horrible thing. But if you think about it, water buffaloes, like in, any scene with a stampede, there's so many water buffaloes that you can't see anything else. There's so many buffalo bison in the times when Native Americans were in the United States that you can't even see. So now there's less cows than there was bisons and water buffaloes, but somehow they cause more climate change than they did before, and they need to be vaccinated with something that's going to stop them from releasing methane. So what does that mean? The methane that they produce from eating the grass, cows have 4 stomachs or whatever. The methane that's produced in that process, which by the way, you fart methane when you pass gas. So that's what it's called, pass gas. When cows pass the gas from that process of eating food, they get vaccinated. What do? Store it within themselves, or where would it go? And what's this gonna do to people? Seems kind of ridiculous. So this is a lawsuit that is complaining about farmers. This is farmers who signed a thing with the government that the government would provide them with fertilizer. What the government did was give them what's called biosludge, which is literally just raw sewage sprayed on the farm fields from human waste from cities. So whatever gets flushed down the toilet is being sprayed on these farms as part of a deal to provide cheap fertilizer for farmers. Surveillance prison taking shape. When Harvey Eugene Murphy visited his home at the state of Texas to get his driver's license renewed, he never imagined the trip would result in him being wrongly arrested and put in jail. So he was identified by a facial recognition as a criminal. He was put in jail, and it turned out that the AI facial recognition was wrong, and that he was not the suspect that they were looking for. Canadian cops contract IDEMIA facial recognition. So now Canada is also adopting this facial recognition thing. So they want to adopt facial recognition to punish citizens, but when the Justice Department is asked for the footage from Joe Biden's interview where he was potentially going to face charges, he was released. They said that he was likely guilty, but that he was too old and senile to face charges. They won't release the footage of the interview because of deepfake concerns, and highlights AI misuse worries. So they're worried about it when it comes to them, but when it comes to putting a citizen in jail, it doesn't matter to them. They're willing to take that risk. Ever since Trump was indicted, he raised $200 million in 3 days since the hush money verdict. This is well over $500 million now. So this is a little bit old of an article, but he has massively gained support as far as his campaign's financial situation is concerned. Fact sheet for abortions. Reason for abortions. So what you see here, the blue ring is pretty much just abortions of somebody who got pregnant and didn't want to have the baby. And then what you see here, the colored parts, is abortions that took place for medical reasons. Now, if you wonder where I stand on abortions, I think that the blue part should be illegal, and that this part here is probably most likely legal. I'm not too sure exactly every case for what fell into that category, but for medical reasons and things like that, I think that there is a certain tolerance that society needs to recognize. Hearing wrap-up. Dr. Fauci held publicly accountable by a select subcommittee. So this was pretty epic, with everybody going after him and all the evidence that they brought up that everybody's been waiting to see Fauci have to answer for. It was pretty exciting thing if you watched any of it. This clip is part of it that I thought was important.
Mr. Fauci, you were quoted on CBS Face the Nation saying it's easy to criticize, but they're really criticizing science because I represent science. Do you represent science, Mr. Fauci?
I am a scientist who uses the scientific method to gain information.
Yes, you said you represent science. Do you represent science, Mr. Fauci? Yes or
Again,
no? Yes or no?
No, that's not a yes or no
Yes,
answer.
it's a yes or no.
I don't think it is.
Okay, well, we'll take that as a you don't know what you represent.
Oh,
But this, as director of the NIH, you did sign off on these so-called scientific experiments. And as a dog lover, I want to tell you this is disgusting and evil, what you signed off on, and these experiments that happened to beagles paid for by the American taxpayer. And I want you to know Americans don't pay their taxes for animals to be tortured like this. So the type of science that you are representing, Mr. Fauci, is abhorrent, and it needs to stop. Mr. Fauci, you also represent the type of science that where you confess that you made up the COVID rules, including
I didn't hear what you
6
said.
feet social distancing and masking of children.
I never
You
said I made anything up.
You admitted that you made it up. You
I
made
didn't
it up
say
as you went.
I made it up.
So are you saying this is fake news, Mr.
I
Fauci?
didn't say I made anything up.
What did you say?
I said that it is not based in science and it just appeared.
But this is science.
What does dogs have to do with anything that we're talking about today?
These are scientific experiments. This is what you signed off on. But you also told the American people they had to distance by 6 feet. They had to wear a mask. But let's also talk a little bit further about the type of science that you represent. NIH scientists made $710 million in royalties from drug makers, a fact that's been hidden. Let's talk about the fact about, is it right for scientists and doctors getting paid by the American people, government taxpayer paychecks, to get patents where they're paid millions and hundreds of millions of dollars in royalty fees, especially when the NIH and these government agencies, most powerful agencies in our country, are recommending medical suggestions and advice and making up guidelines like 6 feet distancing and masking of children? Do you think that's appropriate? Do the American people deserve to be abused like that, Mr. Fauci? Because you're not doctor, you're Mr. Fauci in my few minutes.
So that is exactly what the American people need, is people in leadership to stand up and look someone in the eyes and tell them, you did this. Now, somebody needs to do the same thing to Mayorkas when it comes to the border. CDC urges vaccination amid rise in measles cases in the U.S. and globally. So measles is something that has pretty much been eradicated aside from third world countries. And as I said earlier, third world populations are making their way into the United States and countries in Europe. So this trend of rising cases of measles is in direct correlation to rising cases of illegal immigration. And, measles is another pandemic potential disease that I don't know why you would take the risk of allowing measles or tuberculosis into the United States. It doesn't make any sense. It's a bad health decision, and like we saw with Fauci, who apparently the 6 foot social distancing regulations that he came up with just appeared. That's his words, not mine. They just appeared. So, we have to be on guard for ourselves as a people. We can't allow somebody to make the decisions for us because they haven't been doing a good job. So, with that said, that's all I have for you tonight. I hope that you enjoyed the show. And next week, like I said, we'll jump back on the treadmill, and hopefully some of the things I said here will be vindicated in truth, but also hopefully they don't come true, because if what we're seeing here continues to happen on the same trend, this is only going to lead to negative outcomes. So Unfortunately, only you can stand up as an individual and do your part to change these things. And with that said, I leave you with that little assignment. Figure out what you're passionate about and stand up for it. Because if you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything. So, thank you for watching and have a good night.
Thank you for watching The Citizens Report with William Donahue. On this show, we search for knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of the world around us through the lens of an American citizen.